Hi, I'm Brittany Spear. This is my top 10 list of my favorite movies from 2023. My list is the only one that matters. Here we go. I have a few honorable mentions. Then I'm gonna do numbers 6 through 10, only a couple sentences. And then I'm gonna do numbers 5 through 1 and give you a little bit more of an explanation about those. The Iron Claw, Haunted Mansion. I don't know why I did this because I can't do this without and Scream 6. What do these movies have to do with one another? Absolutely nothing, but they're my honorable mentions. Good movies, not the best, but I still really enjoyed them. Starting off strong, number 10 was the Dungeons and Dragons movie. I went into this with very low expectations and was really pleasantly surprised. You did feel like you were playing the game, kind of. Poor Things. I usually don't like to put movies I had just seen on the list because I'm afraid of recency bias. I do think that this movie had a lot to offer. It's quirky, it's weird, but it's very heartwarming. I really enjoyed it and it's worth seeing. A Good Person by Zach Braff, starring Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman. I was not expecting, again, to like this movie so much. It is a sad movie, but had a good message to it. It really hit home for me in a lot of ways, and I just love Florence Pugh. I've said this before. My love, my new love, Florence Pugh as Yelena. She ends up showing up in the last few episodes and she is just incredible. So being able to watch Black Widow and then being able to see her in Hawkeye, I just fell in love with her as Yelena.
Also, my husband wrote the movie.
There's no way, I'm not even gonna get into it. No hard feelings. I know a lot of people just recently saw this because it's now on streaming. I really enjoyed it when I saw it in the theater. I laughed a lot more than I thought I was going to. Sort of rom-com, sort of raunchy comedy. And I mean, who doesn't want to see Jennifer Lawrence fully naked? Also, Emma Stone fully naked in Poor Things. Lots of naked ladies this year. I'm into it. My number 6 pick is definitely a weird movie, but so fun, so stunning to watch. It was just a cool movie. Who doesn't want to watch a movie about an alien encounter that is by Wes Anderson?
I wouldn't really rely on my opinions about that in any significant way, but I don't really.
Now we're getting into the top 5. I'm gonna have a little bit more to say about these. Getting down to the nitty-gritty of best movies of the year. Coming in at number 5, I have Theater Camp. Back in November, Oliver and I went on a cruise. It was 11 days at sea, and when you're on a cruise, you're limited to the things that you can watch. Theater Camp was one of the only movies that we could watch on this cruise. Would it be on my top 5 if it wasn't for this instance? Not really sure, but I liked it anyway. We actually found the movie so comforting that we would watch it going to bed. So you can imagine how many times we actually put this movie on and watched it. If you ever did anything theater related, you understand how you get those earwigs stuck and just can't let them go. And the amount of times that I say the word, sorry about your visa, Lisa, 5, 6, 7, 8, unmatched. Theater Camp was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the cast. I don't love Ben Platt. I will say that. I know a lot of Dear Evan Hansen people will think that that's blasphemy, but I was never a big fan. However, I do like him in 2 things. That is Theater Camp and Pitch Perfect. I'm not mad, I'm just furious. I enjoyed the references to what it was like to be in theater. You don't really learn anything by the end of it, but you had a good time along the way. And it just was one of those movies that I didn't expect to like as much as I did. Oppenheimer. I don't think there's anything that I can say that hasn't been said a million times about Oppenheimer already. It's a great story. It's really complex, maybe a little too complex at times, but still understandable enough that the common moviegoer can enjoy it. I did appreciate the whole Barbenheimer meme ability of the situation.
It's the double feature no one saw coming. Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's epic about the creation of the atomic bomb, going head to head with a movie that could not be more different.
Barbenheimer is the most exciting cinema moment of this year.
I think that that played a lot into the enjoyment of the film. However, I think Oppenheimer is really just a beautiful Nolan movie. It's Christopher Nolan. What did we expect? Rewatchability is a really big thing for me when picking these lists. So a lot of the times you'll hear me say I could rewatch this movie over and over again. However, it's not the only thing. It's not the only merit that makes a movie good. Do I need to watch it a million times to like it? No, it's long and it's dense, so it's hard to sit through, but that doesn't mean I enjoyed it any less. Okay, now we're getting to my top 3. There were definitely movies that I enjoyed this year, but all in all, I'd say 2023 was slightly disappointing, aside from my top 3. I know that I talked a lot with 4 and 5. Doesn't mean that they're any less good or enjoyable, but my top 3 are really the meat and potatoes of this list. They are movies that I will say, hands down, are my favorite of this year. The classics of 2023. So number 3, I know we spoke a little bit about recency bias already. Do as I say, not as I do. There are movies that just stick with you. There are movies that things happen in them that you just think about a lot. They stick in your brain and you think about them more and more, and you find yourself hyperfixating on them and telling people to watch them and not even really being able to explain why. For me, Saltburn is that movie. Everybody is just getting into Saltburn right now because it just came on Amazon Prime last week. That makes me so happy. I'm so glad that everybody is now into this movie because I felt like I was nuts. When I saw this movie, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop talking about it. And I really couldn't explain why because I didn't want to give away all the nitty-gritty bits. Now, if you've seen Saltburn, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There are plenty of scenes that are shocking. And then there are scenes that are shocking, and I loved all of them. But if you haven't seen Saltburn, you're probably like, what is everybody talking about with this movie? What does that mean? Go watch it. It's not for the faint of heart, though. I will say that. Barry Keoghan, I believe that's how you say his name.
Keoghan.
No, Jacob Elordi and him were in an interview. I think it is Keoghan. I sent it to you. Hold on. I want to listen so I can say it right.
BAFTA-winning Barry Keoghan.
Keoghan. BAFTA-winning Barry Keoghan. Anyway. Barry Keoghan is incredible in this movie. He just really lays it all out there, man. Every wild thing that you can think an actor would do in a film, he does it. Everything. Every single thing, he does it. I mean, it's shocking. It's jaw-dropping, and I love it. And that dance scene, good for you, Barry. Good for you. It's if you took the talented Mr. Ripley and mixed it with Cruel Intentions and added a dope soundtrack. Chef's kiss. I'm really into it. Number 2 was obviously Guardians of the Galaxy 3. What a beautiful movie. We saw it in the theater, what, 5 times, right? Something like that. They really had lightning in a bottle with James Gunn directing those movies. We've talked about these Guardians of the Galaxy movies so many times, not breaking any new ground here, but a movie about a CGI raccoon, and I'm sitting there crying in the middle of it. Why? What's happening here? And it's so funny because everybody says, you know, Marvel fell off, these Marvel movies suck, blah, 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 blah. And yet you're like, oh, okay, but what about Guardians of the Galaxy 3? And they're like, oh, except for that. Like, what? What do you mean except for that? That movie was fantastic and clearly one of the best movies of the year. Probably one of the best Marvel films that they made.
No, please don't say that.
Just like all the other Guardians movies, the soundtrack really killed it. We listened to it so many times on repeat. They know what they're doing. James Gunn knows what he's doing. I'm really excited to see what James gonna do. I'm really excited to see what James gonna do with the DCU. Whatever it is will be phenomenal. Like, I don't care about Superman. I don't particularly like Superman, but if anybody's gonna make me care and like about it, it's gonna be the guy that made me cry over a raccoon in a tree. I cried over a raccoon. He's not even real. And a talking tree. And here we are. My number one, my number one film of 2023. Hold on, hold on. You just hold on. Thank you for bearing with me as I slipped into something a little more comfortable. Barbie. I fell in love with this movie literally within 5 minutes. It just was everything. It was fun, it was vibrant, it was colorful, it was funny, it was heartwarming, it was silly, it was serious, incredibly acted. The world was beautiful. Barbie was gorgeous and smart and thoughtful and thought-provoking and just transcendent. Ken, he's just Ken. He brought patriarchy to Barbie land, or at least he tried. There were no horses. He was upset. When I think about Barbie, I just get so happy. I don't know what else to say. It is just a fantastic film. I think people have it in their heads that in order for something to be considered to be a best picture, it needs to be really serious in order to teach you something. But I think what Barbie shows us is that you can package things up as silly and as weird as you want to and still teach a really valuable lesson. And I think that that's almost more difficult than taking serious content and teaching a lesson. I'm not gonna tell you how to feel. If you wanna sit here and be upset about the movie, about the giant giant doll, go for it. But if you want to accept it for what it is, which is fun and just delightful, you probably should, and not overthink it and not take yourself too seriously. But at the same time, also know that the movie did have a lot to say. It just shouldn't make you this angry. Female autonomy should not make people this angry. Kind of a bad look. And if this like movie about dolls bruised your ego, then it was a lot more fragile than you thought it was. Trust me. If you would have told me at the beginning of this year, a movie where Ryan Gosling plays Ken and sings about being Ken was going to get him an Oscar nom, I probably would have initially said, Ken who? Because no one's worried about Ken. I mean, I probably would have believed you, but I still didn't think it would happen. He is Knuff. I am Knuff. I went on and bought this sweatshirt 5 minutes after I walked out of the theater the first time seeing it. We saw it 5 times in the theater, but that was not enough for me. This was my #1 most wanted item on my list for my birthday this year, and I got it, just in case they take it off Max. So those were my top films of 2023. I hope that you liked them. If you didn't, then kick rocks. I don't know what to tell you. My list is always the best, so make sure you give it a like and subscribe and hit the bell and do whatever else they tell you to do on YouTube. If you want to see more lists, my husband Oliver has his own, has some similar picks, a lot of different picks, really interesting, well thought out, and he's got a bunch of other content here that's really awesome to watch, and he puts a lot of hard work and effort into it, and I'm so proud of him. I want to be able to pay my bills. That's kind of important. Thanks for watching.
He watched it and gave me specific bullet points. I'm not saying that he stole it on purpose. I'm just saying that he had heard it before, and then it wound up in his movie.
Never look at a newly dug grave the same ever again.
It's dark.
I won't. I won't. Is the soil loose enough for him to, what does the viscosity of the soil need to look like?
It has to be raining.
Okay, it's fair. Yeah, it is so good. Can we please put it on after this episode of The Bear? Like literally all night I've been thinking all I want to do is watch Barbie. Like I'm ill.